Now the NFC West. I'll start this one off. Best changing move, Matthew Stafford's last dance, quote unquote, because we hear that every year. They always say it's his last dance. They always say it's his last dance. But this is going to be your best opportunity to kind of go at this. And if this is really his last dance, you've gotten everything that he needs, basically. You got him Davante Adams, exchanging for Cooper Kupp, but that should be a big addition. If you got Puna Ford, you got some other key players, they draft really well. So if they're able to come in here and build off of the good from last year and some of the bad, because obviously we saw what Saquon Barkley just run for over 400 yards on that defense in 2 games. But if you're able to build off on that, because essentially you were a couple of bad plays away from being in the NFC Championship at home against the Washington Commanders. So I think the best move was bringing Matthew Stafford back, not playing around with, maybe Aaron Rodgers, maybe we draft a quarterback, which obviously there were no quarterbacks as of right now that were worth drafting at that position. So yeah, I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford. Eric, what do you got?
Brock Purdy getting paid. The best
Wow.
move. I think the reason I say that is it kind of solidifies that he's the guy that's going to be leading their franchise over the next 5 to 7 years. They're able to get their cap situation straight in terms of the money that they gave him. I don't think it was too much money that it didn't allow them to make other moves. They are obviously able to sign George Kittle and Fred Warner, guys that are important foundational pieces. And then they had added a lot of guys through the draft. Now, they did get rid of a lot of people. You mentioned 2 injury-prone guys, and Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga, who are now with the Broncos. They moved on from Moore, who's going to be starting left tackle for the Chiefs, and Javon Hargrave, a number of guys that played good football for them. Charvarius Ward's another guy was their shutdown corner. So they're going to have to replace those pieces with younger talent that's going to have to go in there and play at a high level early in their careers. But they're going to count on their coaching staff to get those guys ready. They bring Robert Salah back. I think that helps them in terms of solidifying what they're trying to do on defense. Gus Bradley is a defensive senior assistant there, coached a lot of football. I think his presence will help develop some of those younger guys on defense. And then, Kyle Shanahan, hey, you're supposed to be an offensive mastermind. Go out there and do work, get your offense ready to go so you have balance. 6-11 obviously was a bad year for them. We'll see if they can rebound from that.
Easiest schedule going into this year, according to a lot of people. So, Eric, real quick before I go to Gilbert and Vic, the George Kittle 2nd round pick, do you really think that was real? Because if you're kind of in this process where you're kind of rebuilding, and I don't know what you think they're doing. I think I'm of the thought process they're retooling. That's why they didn't make that trade. Mm-hmm. But is that why you think they didn't make that trade? Because they're kind of retooling and they feel like they can still make a run at this?
Yeah, Kittle's still a really good player for them. 2nd round picks are guys that turn into good players, but is that the value in terms of where Kittle is at right now in his career? Even though he's older, I still feel like he's still one of the best tight ends in the league. And you're signing Purdy to that kind of money, and that's basically Purdy's security blanket. That's the guy that he throws to like all the time. You moved on from Debo. Ayuk is coming off of injury, so I mean he's probably going to be your most targeted pass catcher on that roster when you look at who they have at receiver. And obviously McCaffrey's going to catch the ball a lot out of the backfield, but you kind of needed Kittle to stay there and helped solidify the passing game.
Vic.
Mine was what did I go with? I went with the Seahawks drafting safety Nick Emenwari. Let me know if I got that wrong.
That's good.
Yeah, Mike McDonald gets his Kyle Hamilton here, and I thought that was huge. I know there was a lot of teams. I've already seen the Patriots kind of come out and talk about this, that they haven't actually said who they were thinking of drafting if they were there, but there was a lot of teams that I know of that were really looking at him at the beginning of that second round. And so for Mike McDonald to get his Kyle Hamilton here, I thought it was huge. And then I was also going to say just taking care of their offensive line with their first pick too. Snyder has not been good at drafting offensive linemen. I think I have that stat where I think it's been since 2005 or something, some crazy. It's been a long time since they've had a Pro Bowl first round pick, or even a lineman that they drafted be a Pro Bowler. So yeah, I thought that one was also a good one.
Yeah, I think it was Max Unger. I think they didn't draft him. He was drafted the year before in 2008. I don't think Okung went to a Pro Bowl when he was there.
Yeah, he did. That was the name I was trying to.
It was
remember.
Okung. Okay,
yeah,
Okung was drafted in 2010.
Yeah,
look at that.
There you go.
Nice pull.
Yeah. Since we're all gonna pick a team here, I wasn't forced here, but I'm gonna take my Arizona Cardinals, and I feel hesitant here because I'll say this: if there was any other quarterback besides Kyler Murray, it sounds weird to say, I would feel better about this. Kyler Murray wasn't that good last year. He just seemed uncomfortable with the play style. He was more of a patient quarterback in the pocket than being a mobile quarterback. Hopefully, him and the OC figure it out, but. On paper, the offense looks pretty nice, and they needed to make moves defensively, especially on the defensive front. There, they needed edge rushers, defensive tackles, and I'll give Jonathan Gannon credit. He coached his butt off to maximize the talent that he had the last couple of years. They don't get a lot of time in the spotlight, so we're not really sure how he is as a game manager or in clutch moments. But he knows how to coach defense. So getting Josh Sweat to follow him from Philly to Arizona, and then adding guys like veterans like Dalvin Tomlinson, Calais Campbell, and then taking a chance on the first round pick, Walter Nolan. Like Nolan has some character concerns, but to lean on Campbell, who still could play, and Dalvin Tomlinson, they finally have depth. They have a quality number one edge rusher. I don't know how that phrase number one edge rusher for Josh Sweat. I don't know if I could say that fully because he doesn't feel like obviously like the star edge rusher, but he really benefited from depth in Philly, and they're building that depth in Arizona with Jonathan Gannon. Maybe the second-year player, Darius Robinson, does better in year two. He was a first-round pick last year to give him more depth there. But you had to build the trenches on the defensive side. So to me, if those moves pay off, they also help out Budda Baker, maybe Will Johnson if he actually is healthy. But you run the football, you have a good defense, and Kyler Murray, don't screw it up. Go win 8 to 10 games.
Yeah, just to tag on to what Gil said, I think both of us have been down there to see training camp. And like Gil, I've been impressed with Gannon and how he runs things. They're very disciplined. They run a tight ship. Guys seem to believe in him when you talk to the players about Gannon and kind of him setting the tone in terms of their franchise. They went from 4 wins to 8 wins. That was impressive, and they can see that they continue to build on that. Some of the key things that you mentioned defensively, I agree with. I think they're going to be better defensively because of the front seven. They get Justin Jones back, who was injured, along with Bilal Powell, so that should help in terms of the depth. B.J. Ojulari was hurt during training camp, who could maybe be the guy opposite of Sweat. So hopefully their pass rush will be better. But I'm concerned with the offense, and Kyler Murray just seems to regress in the second half of seasons, and we've seen that too often now. And so,
too much Call of Duty.
Is Marvin Harrison going to be better in his second year?
He got muscle on him this year.
Yeah. He got rocked up. I mean, he looks like a tight end now.
Yeah,
he was already
maybe
big.
Too much. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he was already a big guy. And then the other thing for me is James Conner. Like, if he's hurt, I feel like that offense is going to be totally different. I'm not totally buying on Trey Benson as a guy that could come in and be a workhorse running back if Conner gets hurt, and Conner's 30 years old. So, that would be a concern for me because they are a run-first offense that's going to run a lot of play action off of that. I don't feel like Kyler can carry that offense week in and week out.
Yeah.
And so, it's weird because they were like an offensive-led team last year. This coming year, I think they're going to be better defensively, but I actually think they might be worse offensively.
Are you buying Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah, I think Marvin's legit. I think Marvin not putting up good stats, it has more to do with Kyler and how they're using on offense and not him as a skill set. They don't run him on enough over routes, slant routes, or crossing routes where he's running away from the defense. It's a lot of boundary routes where he's running comebacks or goes, and those are low percentage routes. So they got to give him some easy catches, either slants or stops or bubble screens where you can kind of get him confidence early in the game and he can win. So he's ready to feed him late.
Hey, but Eric, those 3-yard catches for Trey McBride over and over again, those were doing great there in Arizona. Just keep throwing at Trey McBride for 2-yard catches and 0 touchdowns into the final week of the
Sounds
season.
like somebody that has Trey in fantasy.
It's watching this offense was frustrating. It was all McBride, and then it was little dump balls. Hey, I can't figure it out. Here you go. I don't know if Kyler Murray can't read a defense or he just hates this system that Petzing drew up for him. But they couldn't go. He couldn't go deep. I remember that meltdown in Minnesota, and he had 2 interceptions when he had to play from behind. So I blame more Kyler than Marvin Harrison Jr. for sure.
This has to be a big year for Kyler, isn't it? Like it's either put up or shut up, but kind of at this point, Eric.
Yeah, I agree. He's got to play well. I think the talent is there. I think it's just figuring out schematically, what works best for him. I think like Russell Wilson in Seattle, I think at times he has trouble throwing over the middle of the field. And I think that's actually where you want to get somebody like Harrison or Trey McBride because they're big guys. And he just can't see it. So, but like Drew Brees, they used to create those passing lanes for him so he could throw in the middle of the field, and maybe they need to start scheming up things so they can get to the middle of the field more consistently. The one thing I was going to add with Vic is Emanuori. I totally agree. That was actually going to be my pick if I didn't go with Purdy. You mentioned Hamilton. To me, watching him every day when he was there, Cam Chancellor, like that's who I see when I see Emanuori because he's going to come up and thump you. He's athletic enough to run with tight ends. And I think they needed a guy that kind of like Derwin James for the Chargers that can match up with tight ends or big body receivers in the NFC West in some of the teams that they're going to face.